All right, let's talk about anti-differentiation by parts. As the name implies, we're going to be finding the antiderivative of a function, finding that integral, but we're going to do it a bit at a time. And this is for more complicated functions. So let's start by going back and taking a look at the product rule. The product rule says is that the derivative of u times v is equal to u times the derivative of v plus v times the derivative of u, all with respect to x. So if I integrate all three of these things, what I get is that the integral of the derivative of uv, the integral of u dv dx, and the integral of v du dx, but I need to integrate these all with respect to x. So I'm going to jam my dx in there, and then I'm going to rewrite it. And what I get is that the integral of the derivative of uv with respect to x is equal to the integral of u dv. Notice that basically canceling those out, plus the integral of v du, again basically canceling those out. But the integral of the derivative of u v dx is just u times v. The integral of the derivative is u times v. So this gives me uv is equal to the integral of u dv plus the integral of v du. And I'm going to reorganize this a bit. I'm going to move the integral of v du to the left side and then write it backwards. And what we get is that the integral of u dv is equal to u times v minus the integral of v du. And this is the basic function of how to integrate by parts. So let's take a look and see what that looks like in a concrete example. The integral of x times the cosine of x dx. I am going to define u equal to x and dv equal to cosine of x dx. And we'll talk a little bit more later about how do I decide which is which, but basically it doesn't really matter. You try. If it doesn't work, you switch them and you do it the other way around. So we immediately know that du is equal to dx. We know that v is equal to sine of x. And our product rule says that this is u times v. So let's write the product rule up above. uv minus integral of v du. And so this then becomes uv, x times the sine of x, minus the integral of v du. Well, v is sine, du is dx, minus the integral of sine of x dx. And, oh, hey, look, we know that one. The antiderivative of sine is negative cosine, which means that the integral of x cosine x dx is x sine of x plus cosine of x plus a constant. And there is our answer. So again, if I chose wrong, if I just switched these and said, well, u is equal to cosine and dv is equal to x dx, then du would be equal to negative sine x dx, negative, and v would be equal to 1/2 x squared. And I can immediately see that it's getting more complicated because the integral of v du, instead of being x cosine, is now negative 1/2 x squared sine, which means I've gone the wrong direction. I've gotten more complicated, not less complicated. So, what should you know right now? You should know this equation right here. And you should be looking at it and be able to pick a u, pick a dv, and then just work your way through the process using the equation. And of course, you should never forget to add a constant at the end of the antiderivative. All right, that will do it for video 1. We'll be back with some more examples of slightly more complicated problems. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something.